For this edition of Film and Shows Adaptation, I ended up reading all 75 books from the late 90s, early 2000s of Lucifer, the Vertigo comics, and let me tell you this, it is very different from what we got with the TV show. It's a very great comic, and I really enjoyed it. Hours and hours of reading through stories and also commercial, because back then we used to have commercial in the books. Anyhow, that was my reading for this edition of Film and Shows Adaptation. Have a good one. And I am live talking about movies and TV shows once again. We are talking about Lucifer this time around. And you know what? It's very different from the comics. Very, very different from the comics. I feel like they really took parts of the lore and they were like, you know what? We will use the IP and the names, but we will create an entire very different universe. And it's kind of fascinating because I also read some of the Sandman comics and I have seen the Sandman TV show. And you know what? It's polar opposites. I think overall the Lucifer TV show is quite enjoyable. While the Lucifer TV show is quite enjoyable, the Sandman TV show is not so great. And it's kind of funny because the Sandman TV show, despite being not so great, was very accurate to the lore and the comics. It's just fascinating. Two polar opposites. And I really think Lucifer does work well as a TV show despite not adapting very well the comics. Anyway, that was the source material segment. Even if there's some kind of sequel to the 90s run of Lucifer, the sequel has nothing to do with the TV shows once again. And they also go out of their way to let everyone know it's not connected to the books. The TV show is not connected to the books, and it all makes sense. Now let's dive deep into the first season of Lucifer, because this is why many of you might be here. The Lucifer TV show review. So season 1 was quite enjoyable. And now let's get into it. I will start by saying the plot is quite simple. Much more simple than what the comics did. So the plot of the Lucifer TV show is Lucifer Morningstar, the son of God, left hell to take some vacation. Maze, Lucifer's assistant, decides to follow Lucifer to protect him. Maze and Lucifer both work together in the Locks bar. Amadil, Lucifer's older brother, decides to join Lucifer on Earth, trying to convince the youngest to go back in hell. And that's another major difference between the books and the TV show. It's a major difference. Because in the books, he is the oldest. Lucifer is the oldest. Very interesting. So unfortunately, it's not really a religious stream right now, but I get it. Some people could see it that way because Lucifer is a TV show for those who didn't know. Anyway, to get back to the Lucifer plot, Chloe Decker, detective of the Los Angeles Police Force, ends up meeting Lucifer Morningstar in the middle of an delete investigation to remain user-friendly. The first investigation led to a partnership in which Lucifer becomes a consultant for the LAPD. Can the devil himself become more human and a better living being? This is the big question for the TV show. And now let's go in the more the distribution aspect of the TV show. The genre is mystery, occult, detective, fiction, urban fantasy, police procedural, comedy, drama, and at some point romance drama. And it's based on characters created by DC Vertigo by Neil Gaiman, Sam Kate, Mike Dragenberg. But again, as I said in the source of material aspect, well, it's very different from the comics. Oh, thank you very much. It happens. It happens. To get back on track, it was developed on TV by Tom Cupinos, showrunner Joe Anderson, starring Tom Ellis as Lucifer, Lauren German as Chloe Decker, Kevin Alejandro as Detective Dan, D.B. Woodside. Unfortunately, I don't know that actor. Maybe that's Amadil. I wouldn't be surprised. Leslie Ann Brent. Maybe I got Lauren German mixed up with Leslie Ann Brent. Not quite sure. Anyway, Scarlett Estevez, Rachel Aris. Rachel Aris is, I believe, Linda in the TV show. So basically, in the TV show, spoiler, the devil has a therapist that's named Linda. It's fascinating. The next actor in the production is Kevin Rankin, Tricia Effer. I can't recognize her. Oh, maybe that's Charlotte in season 3, actually. Amy Garcia. Oh, that's a character for season 2. She is Ella. Tom Welling as Kane or Pierce in season 3, and Amber Levy as Eve, the first girl, Berted. Brenna Brand is, I believe, Rory in the final season. So this is the people involved in the show. We also had 6 seasons for the TV show, but tonight we focus on the first 3 seasons. So now that we talked about the plot and the production, let's go into the deeper review. What did I think? Well, I can already spell what I thought. It's a very fun TV show with lots of great humor, and I think it criticizes a lot religion, parenthood, and it's very interesting. But again, if you're a big fan of the books, maybe you won't like that TV show that's very different. So the first season is the only season where I really have a episode ranking. Eventually, it will only be top 3 and worst 3. So the ranking of the episodes in the first season for me, in first place, we got episode 6 with a 10 out of 10, followed by, in second place, the first episode with a 10 out of 10. In third place, we got episode 4 with a 10 out of 10. In fourth place, we got episode 8 with a 10. In fifth place, we got episode 7 with a 10. Yes, I know there's a lot of 10. There's actually one episode that wasn't a 10 for me, and that's my least favorite in the bunch. In sixth place, we got episode 2, 7, episode 3, 8, episode 5. Ninth place, we got episode 13. 10th place, we got episode 12. 11th place, we got episode 11. In 12th place, we got episode 10. And in last place, we got episode 9 with a 9.9 out of 10. Now, let's really talk about that season furthermore. I had no issue whatsoever with the entire season. I also think it's the best season of the show. Emotional season with great cast and characters. Amandel being a fish out of water, hating humans, was a nice foundation for his character to really grow and improve. And Amadil understanding how Lucifer thought was nice growth. Lucifer evading emotional attachment because of his abandonment issues was enjoyable. Maze slowly finding agency outside of Lucifer was interesting. Linda growth into keeping a relationship with Lucifer professional was nice growth as well. Lucifer escaping responsibilities by going on Earth was also a nice foundation for his character. Amadil was a nice antagonist the way it was used when he tried to bring back Lucifer to hell. The season was very consistent and well written in terms of characters, story, and episodic way. The humor was also amazing. And I don't have a lot more to say about season 1. I think season 1 is a standout season that deserves a 10 out of 10. It's the peak of what a police cop TV show investigation can be, with a touch of supernatural, because we got the devil like hypnotizing people, which is fascinating. This first season laid the groundwork for what would eventually be an amazing TV show. And again, I will give this first season a 10 out of 10 because it's a masterpiece. Everyone that hasn't seen must see it. That was a very short review because I don't have a lot more to say. So let's dive deep into the second season of this very fun TV show. Let's start with the plot of season 2. Still on vacation, Lucifer Morningstar helps Detective Chloe Dicker as a consultant for the LAPD. During several investigations of people vanishing or getting deleted, a romance between Chloe and Lucifer is born. Amadale, older brother of the devil, decides to stick around on Earth to learn their way and become more human than Angel. May's former L guardian needs to find her agency and calling outside of Lucifer. Some goddess also appears on Earth, taking several lives. Do people have free will, or is it all part of God's plan? This is one of the big ideas behind this second season. Outside of adding Ella to the cast, the second season doesn't really change too much the formula. It increased the number of episodes, and I think it also increased the number of writer and cook in the kitchen. Maybe that's why at that point season 2 is slightly worse than 1. They also had more chance into filling some of the episodes and some of the storylines because it's not always the same people involved. Again, Ella in that season was a nice addition. She filled a void we didn't know needed to be filled with the first season. Now, that was also on Fox, if I have my intel right. I'm looking into it. Yes, that was still Fox. So Netflix took over with season 4. So basically next week is the Netflix week. But yeah, enjoyable first and now second season. So let's dive deep into the second season. And as much as I liked it, this second viewing wasn't anywhere near as great as my first viewing, unfortunately. So let's get into it. Let's talk about season 2. So season 2 of the Lucifer TV show. I had the worst 3 episodes in that season, and that's in third place. Episode 8 with a 9.5 out of 10. So even my third least favorite episode that season was quite strong and quite good. In second place, in the worst 3 episode of that season, we got episode 3 with a 9 out of 10. And my least favorite episode in season 2 was episode 15 with a 8 out of 10. So there's already a drop in quality just based on that. I mean, there was only one episode in the first season that I was like, yeah, it's not as good as the others. I liked it, but not as good. This season, there's three that really stand out and really feel very much weaker. Now, let's talk about my top three episode for season two. Because that one matters, right? So in third place, we got episode 6 with the 10 out of 10 icy correlation. The 6th episode of a season is always a standout one. It's always a really good one. In second place in my top 3 episode of that season, we got episode 7, a great follow-up to 6 with a 10 out of 10. It's both episode where Linda gets to learn the truth about Lucifer. She is really the therapist of the devil. I spoiled it, I said it, but I mean, we are already in season 2. You know how it goes, right? So, the best episode in season 2 in my books is episode 13 with a 10 out of 10. And spoiler, Lucifer accepts to die and go to hell to save Chloe. This is the pinnacle of growth. The one selfish guy decides to go down there and save a woman he thinks he loves, but he's not quite sure because he doesn't know if it's truly his feelings or if it's whatever God plan is. Doesn't know. He doesn't know. Now that the top 3 and worst 3 is shared, I will say this. I have no issues whatsoever with season 2. It wasn't as good as 1, but it's just because some of the episodes were slightly weaker. It doesn't mean it wasn't a consistent season, because overall the season was still very, very strong. They just had more chance into missing something, and they did miss a few shots. But the season overall is still very good, very solid. So the likes of season 2, the great music, the amazing characterization, the season was very consistent because most of the material was still very, very good and enjoyable and watchable. The 4th like, most freak of the week were either great or they brought up amazing growth for the cast and characters. Very emotional season, great humor, great at showing or telling. The mother was one complex and fun character. Great lore. The show maintained the top quality setup by season 1, having most of its episode as good or just a little worse. Overall, great continuation for season 1. Now let's get into characters arc and teams. Chloe opening up her heart for the first time in years was very interesting. It's also up to interpretation since she is a miracle and part of God's plan. Lucifer taking agency and his own destiny was endearing. Lucifer coming to terms with ending his brother's life was interesting. Lucifer being shattered by the reveal of him and Chloe maybe not real was very interesting. Lucifer admitting he's got attachment issues and daddy issues was cool. Lucifer admitting he's got emotions issues was very entertaining. Linda coming to terms with being the devil's psychologist therapist was very fun. Mother starting as manipulative and finishing as someone that's supporting and accepting was very interesting. Nice theme of free will. May's trying to expand her life on Earth outside of Lucifer was cool. Danny and Lucifer understanding each other better was great. Amadil understanding more Lucifer and becoming an ally and fallen angel was great. Perfect season. Unfortunately, I'd say and think it's slightly weaker than season 1, since individual episode exception aside aren't as top tier and perfect. I will give this second season a well-deserved 10 out of 10, just like the first. I think this show up to that point is solid. It knows what it is. It knows what to do. It knows a very good formula, and it's only the start because the show goes downhill from now on. We will enter season 3 the start of the decline of the show. Season 4 is a great comeback to form, but season 3, let's be honest, this second viewing was a lot more painful than my first viewing. It's unfortunate because I still really love a lot of that show, but the show has dropped, in my opinion, a lot. So let's get into the plot of season 3. Lucifer Morningstar grew back his long lost wings. As a consultant of the Los Angeles Police Department, the devil himself helps out Detective Chloe DeCure during all kinds of investigations. A lawyer with lost time felt like she needs redemption. The Cinderman, a criminal personal to a new lieutenant at the LAPD, runs around and ends lives of many. Can the therapist of the devil help him getting redemption? Can a fallen angel can earn back his place in heaven? These are great questions this season will answer. And just like season 1 and 2, I will spoil the entire thing. This season is not as great as 1 and 2, but it has a great moment. And I won't lie, the characterization is still on point. I think it's more like some of the aspects of the show that make the show weaker, and the episode overall, if you compare like 1 to 1, this episode to this episode, it always feels short and not as solid as what season 1 and 2 delivered. So let's get into the worst 3 episodes of season 3. Now, I feel like it's a bit unfair because that season had the original run of 24 episodes. They ended up giving 2 bonus episodes, and unfortunately, these bonus episodes, they are bonus. They are the definition of filler. They were not planned, and they are both in that season, and that really makes that season quite weird because that's episode really 25 and 26. And I'm actually glad it's the last 2 because then you don't need to look at the list to, if you want to skip them, you can simply not watch the last 2 episodes. But still, these episodes are still considered part of season 3. They are bonus, and that plays against the season. Sorry, folks, but if you get a bonus episode, maybe you should try to make it good enough so people can just tune in and watch it and enjoy it. It's a bonus, you know? But I don't think they tackled it with that in mind. They tackled it, oh, we need to fill these 2 spots. Let's fill it with a Elseworld story and a flesh out of a neglected character. So let's get into the worst 3 episodes of season 3. In third place, we got episode 11 with a 7 out of 10. That's one of the worst episodes up to that point. Say up to that point because season 5 and 6 do have far worse things than this. In second place, we got episode 25, filler, unwatchable. And you guessed it, my least favorite episode in season 3 was 26, another filler, unwatchable. The concept of a what if is interesting. Is it good enough to watch it again? No, I don't think so. And that's what happened. It's a bit unfortunate, but this is exactly what's going on there. So now that I've given the worst 3 and top 3, let's get into the full review of this season. Well, I actually didn't give the top 3, so let's get into the top 3. I actually almost forgot about that. Episode 3, or rewind. Third place, we got episode 20 with a 10. Second place in the top 3, episode 21 with a 10. My favorite episode in season 3 was episode 4 with a 10. I think this 4th episode is actually a standout one that's very good. And if I remember correctly, that episode was also quite fun on a first viewing many years ago. So that's a consistent thing where that episode is always a standout one. Now, let's go into my issues with the 3rd season because I had issues with the 3rd season. So, my first issue with season 3. Filler of the season was horrendous. Many filler episodes happened. Season could have been told, or could have told the same story under around 16 to 20 episodes, cutting 6 to 10 episodes. My second issue with third season. Ella unfortunately didn't get any good material. Despite being part of 2 full seasons now, she didn't evolve and was mostly played for laugh. Despite the show trying to expand on her, it just didn't work. My third issue, season wasn't consistent at all, probably mostly caused by the high episode count. Some of the best material was given, yet the worst also happened. Episodes were hit and miss. My fourth issue with season 3, and that's a recurring issue with later season, but on steroid later on. But up to that point, it wasn't like that. But let's get into it. Some of the dialogue was off-putting and felt like a drop-off from previous season. I feel like we dealt a lot with the B team with season 3. It's unfortunate because that was the last season under Fox, and season 4, 5, 6 were all under Netflix. So these were my 4 issues with season 3. My likes. Usually I despise Love Triangle, however, this time around they added to the characters, pushing said characters further. Ella aside, the characters had great growth. Charlotte earned redemption by taking a bullet for an angel and by putting away criminals she previously protected. Lucifer realizing he redeemed himself and he didn't like it. It was a nice process. To top that, his love and him opening up to both Linda and Chloe were great. Chloe opening up emotionally and being more than just work was great growth. Kane having regrets and waiting to live after, or rewind, and wanting to leave to live after his desire for death followed him for centuries was great growth. So basically, Kane was a character that wanted to die for centuries, and that season led him to believe maybe life is worth living even if I'm immortal, and that's very interesting. I like it a lot. Amandale getting redeemed and realizing he is the loved son was great. Bay struggling with love was amazing growth. The action was great. Linda thinking about her own happiness for once was great. Some of the Freak of the Week were amazing, including Kane's brother. Overall, the show was entertaining and a good building block for the show. Great ending with Lucifer finally revealing himself to Chloe. The season having 2 main stories was good. Cinderman as opening and Kane as ending. That was rock solid. Nice subtle theme of self-inflicted injuries. Nice sub-message of being trans through Kane's brother being in a woman body. Overall theme of redemption throughout the season through both Charlotte and Lucifer and even Amadale to some extent was great. 7.5 out of 10. This season was far worse than my previous watch, knowing where the show goes after. I already had a source of material segment, but now I will have a second one after the full review for this season because I think it's kind of relevant. I wanted to make sure I don't forget, but now I just realized I added more to the source of material segment. So let's get into a second source of material segment here. And maybe I will repeat some of the things I already said in the intro, but let's get into it. So, Maze, Lucifer, and Amadale were the only characters present in the Vertigo comic that ran in the late 90s, early 2000. Even the story itself was very different, the book being mostly in hell and heaven, while the show was mostly earth-based. And I think that was a money component there. They wanted to save some money, and building hell in heaven could be costly, especially if hell and heaven in the comics have very different species and creatures, and you know what I'm getting at there. Maze was accurate to her self-hatred, however, she was different because in the books it was caused by Maze becoming pretty when she liked being ugly. And in the show she hated herself because her mom gave her up. Lucifer talks the way Lucifer talks in the comics, however, he is more dressed and doesn't have the same haircut or hair colors. Amandale isn't black in the comic. Lucifer was also the eldest in the comics. Lucifer's story in the show was about accepting himself, loving himself, and getting attached to others. Lucifer's story in the original run of the book was him failing to be part of Hell's government. He decided to run a coup in heaven to better everything. He failed that task as well, so he decided to cut himself from the universe because he didn't see himself fitting in said universe. There's also a romance between Maze and Lucifer. That same romance is what caused Lucifer to find a calling in the sequel that ran from 2015 to 2017. Overall, the TV show only felt like borrowed IP and some faces. I gave the TV show for the first 3 seasons a 3 out of 10 as an adaptation of the source material. That's exactly how I feel. As much as I like the TV show as a product, the first 3 seasons were quite enjoyable. It's not faithful at all. And again, if you like the comics, maybe you will hate the show. Now, that was my review and the comic book segment number 2, because we had one really early. So, if you have seen the TV show, what did you think of it? With that being said, we are now in the outro. What happens next on the channel? Friday, we talk about politics. Why we should fire some minister in my country. Because if I mention it, maybe YouTube and our weird laws will blacklist this video. Now, next Monday, I will have a violent review because there are 2 horror slasher movies that are coming out Friday that I plan on watching in theaters. So that's the review Monday. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, we are back with Lucifer season 4, 5, and 6. We will close off that Lucifer discussion next Wednesday. Cannot wait. That will be fun. And we will have a gaming at some point. So maybe it's next Tuesday gaming. I don't know. We will see. With that being said, I'm excited about future stream, and maybe Saturday we will have a semi-original guy for some advanced source by web. We will see. Only time will tell. With this, I am out. Have a great one. Take care.